Well, as we continue on recognizing Memorial Day as we go into this weekend, those who are serving and those who have served, I am really honored to have in the studio with me today a good friend, Earle Tyerman. He is a gentleman that experienced the Battle of the Bulge. He landed on a Utah beach on D-Day, and he has quite a story to tell. And first of all, Earle, can I say thank you for your service and your bravery, and thank you for being with us today. Good to see you again.
Well, both ways, that's a privilege to have been in the service and to be here too.
Now, 87 going on 88, and as you look back, clear back to the Battle of the Bulge, can you believe today what the military has to work with and what you didn't have in those days?
Oh, well, on a cloudy, foggy day in the Battle of the Bulge, we couldn't see but just a few yards, and we could hear all the explosions from the German artillery, but we had no plane cover, whereas nowadays with the radar,
right, and GPS,
the planes can come in the deepest fog and deepest snow and pinpoint targets that we couldn't possibly, for 6 weeks, we never could see any more than 50 yards away.
All right. Now, D-Day was, in the Battle of the Bulge, it was pretty much known for its cold weather. It was freezing cold in that fog. In fact, many men froze to death.
We had total 90,000 casualties in 6 weeks.
Wow.
But probably 10% were men that got in their foxholes, went to sleep, and froze to death during the night. Wow. And then the medics would pick them up in the morning just like an ice cube frozen solid.
Wow. Now, how long did you have to wait where you were? Now, you were on Utah Beach. How long did you have to literally live in those conditions before air reinforcement came in?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. And there you were, just waiting.
Yes.
And
running out of food and ammunition. Yeah.
And they couldn't get supplies to you?
No.
So how did you manage that? How did you know what you had and what you may need?
We knew it was bad, and it was probably going to get worse unless the weather cleared. So what little we had, we portioned, which wasn't much. And some days, 2 or 3 biscuits, about like soda crackers.
Wow.
And a little 3-ounce can of chopped pork would make last 2 days.
Wow.
So I lost 20-some pounds in 6 weeks.
Wow. All right, tell us about when the fog lifted and you were given the command to go. What happened?
Oh. All the Christians, at that particular time I wasn't a Christian, but I knew the Lord.
Yeah.
So it was, praise God.
Yeah.
Praise God. He's answering prayer. And just within hours after the fog lifted, B-19s came in and dropped bombs on the railroad depots and the tank formations. P-38 fighter planes come in, and just in 1 day's time, they just wiped them all out.
The largest air invasion of its kind, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I think we have a picture of you just before you were deployed. You're a young man then. Here's the picture here.
Yes.
There it is up on the screen now. How old were you there?
18.
18. And what are you holding in your hand there?
M1 Garand rifle. That was my closest friend outside of the Lord. That was my closest friend. I was unattached and raring to go for the military.
Now, you're saying of all the pieces of equipment that you had during the Battle of the Bulge, the one thing that the American troops had that was superior was this M1 rifle.
M1 rifle was the best rifle of any country in the world.
Okay, so that was, and then
that's the particular picture is the day that I received my expert medal for a score of 99 out of a possible 100.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, just to kind of get a perspective, you have a very rare picture of three generals. I want to put it up on the screen here and let our viewers who are watching on the Dove TV see this. I recognized the one in the middle as Eisenhower, and who are the other two?
On Eisenhower's left, on his left, is General Bradley, Omar Bradley.
Okay.
And on the right is Joseph Collins, who was my direct commander of 7th Corps, 1st Army. And he later became a 5-star general and took Eisenhower's place as Chief of Staff.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
What do you remember most of that battle and perhaps the day the fog lifted? What do you remember most?
There's a lot of particular moments that I don't really recall, but one particular moment was I'm alive, and I got so many friends that were killed. My thought was, this is before I really knew the Lord, was why not why me, but why not me? Mm-hmm. If I made it this far, and now the Battle of the Bulge is over, that was a victory to me. I'm going home. That's when I knew I was going home.
Wow. I don't think even today we can get our head around that particular battle. You said 90,000 casualties. I mean, that is a number that we can't process
about
through our...
1,600 a day.
That's unbelievable.
I know. It's hard to... Well, like I'd mentioned before, it gets to the point you never get over it, but you have to learn how to go through it. You have to learn how to step over bodies without knowing who they are, where they are, or how it happened.
Because you had to keep moving.
Yeah.
Was it a matter, now you said something, you were fighting not for a matter of control, but you were fighting for liberty. There was something in the American soul of that era, your era, that you fought with the least amount of equipment. You just didn't have it.
Right.
And you would step over a body and keep going forward. What was that in your heart? What was that?
Well, we looked at a demon-possessed dictator, Hitler, and we know that the soldiers that were fighting for Germany were fighting for their Führer. And just as the Japanese were fighting for their emperor, we were fighting for freedom, for liberty, for morality, and dead set against the evil that we were faced with.
You know, few generations have been given the responsibility to do that.
Yes.
Your generation was given the responsibility to fight and protect liberty.
Yes.
Here we are, these many years later, and we're having to fight it in a whole new way.
Yes.
How do you view that? How do you view what you fought and stepped over your own servicemen and countrymen? Today, we seem to be fighting this thing within the walls of America in a whole nother level.
It's hard for me to understand the hearts of people today in high places that are more concerned in economic values rather than moral values. In my time growing up, my country was so important to me. And when we entered the war, before I was old enough to go in, if we went to a movie, they always showed a newsreel.
Right.
And when President Roosevelt was shown, sometimes in his wheelchair, and speak, the whole audience
Would stand.
stood and applauded.
Yeah.
Now that's Americanism.
That's Americanism.
Yeah, we don't have that anymore.
I'm sad.
Yes.
And I want to talk to you about that someday. But for the sake of time, we have one more picture I want to show our audience. This is you liberating a concentration camp.
Yes.
And this picture might be a little hard for some to look at, but all those are bodies.
In that particular scene, there's 3,500 bodies there, and then there's another 2,500 that were stacked up, ready to go into ovens and into
mass graves,
bulldozed maximum grave.
Now, if you look to the right of that picture, those who are looking, you'll see kind of like a flag or a white, like a cot thing. That is, you are standing in front of that. Is that correct?
I was just taking a step forward there, with that white line across.
Right line. That is you there. And then off to your right is who?
Laura Bush's dad.
Laura Bush's dad.
Yes.
And you knew him, and you still get some correspondence from her.
Yes, I sent her this very picture because she had mentioned one time on television that her father said the hardest part of the war was the liberation of Nordhausen death camp. And so I had this original Signal Corps picture. So I got the permission, and I sent her a copy, and she wrote me a letter back thanking me for it, and then we've corresponded a few times since then.
Was that the hardest part of the war for you? Liberating
It's the one that gave me the nightmares for years afterwards, yeah.
I see, again, this is a picture we can't get our head around. It looked like it just came from another world, another time zone.
It was, actually, that it's almost like a dream world. People can't. I go to high schools, or like I went to, a Cascade Christian school. Mm-hmm. I show this picture, and the children say, "It really did happen."
Yeah.
See, they weren't sure. Yeah. And you see almost 100% tears that reaches people's hearts. Well, that stayed, here in me for almost 10 years. I sleep on the couch rather than in bed because I was so restless that I didn't want to keep my wife awake. She would never complain, but I didn't want to. So. But
wow.
It's something, you can't erase this kind of stuff.
No, you can't. But it was, again, what was in you and your fellow servicemen's hearts and your spirit, the something inside of you, that tenacity, that tenacious.
Yeah.
We got to go, and we are fighting for liberty here. It is good against evil. It is.
Oh yeah.
It is the good spirit against the bad spirit.
You give everything you got in order to keep what you have.
You give it everything you got in order to keep what you have.
Yes, and you go back. Like I go back, I think, when I was a teenager, the morality was up.
Yeah.
I never once heard of a person being arrested in high school.
Yeah. Well, Earle, we're out of time, but thank you for sharing with us today. This is so meaningful. Thank you for your service again. And I hope for many more Memorial Days you're around, and times in the future we can get you back and talk more about this.
Well, I thank you, and I pray for all those widows and widowers that are out there.
Okay. Thank you. We love you. God bless you.